Hi, Brucham Aboyim. It's today's Pesach Sheni, and I'm sitting now by the Suda Pesach Sheni, and I was learning from Tzat in the Machzer, the Zmiris for Yantiv. They bring a Divrei Yoel from Parshas Beshalach that sheds tremendous light on the whole issue of Pesach Sheni. Pesach Sheni, we know the story in the book of Numbers, chapter 9, the second Passover. It says, "Vayinoshim in Parshas Baloscha, Vayinoshim asher hayu tmeim l'nefesh Adam v'loyachol lasis Pesach v'yikra l'fnei Moshe v'yemar anoshim ha'ema Elov anachnu tmeim l'nefesh Adam lo min negar l'vel tehikriv es korban Hashem v'yemar l'ei Moshe im duvesh v'ma yitzav Hashem l'chem." It says there were men who were impure from a soul, meaning from a dead body, from the soul of a person, and they were not able to perform the Passover sacrifice. And they came close before Moses, and these men said to him, "We are impure to a human soul," meaning from a dead body. "Why should we be left out, that we should not be able to offer the sacrifice of the Lord?" And Moses said to them, "Stand here and listen to what the Lord will command you." So the Rebbe brings that in Parshas Pinchas, there's the story of the Bnos Tzalafchad, the daughters of Tzalafchad, I don't know how they would say it in English, who came before Moses with the question of inheritance for daughters, and a man has no sons, how the inheritance to go. And the answer was that they should only marry members of the same tribe, so the inheritance should remain within the tribe. And both of these mitzvahs, Medrash tells us, are different from other mitzvahs, because all these two mitzvahs were given through a question, meaning God gave everything directly to Moses. So what's the deal with the question? And Moses has to go ask God the question to find out what to do. Meaning, why do you have to ask? Didn't God tell Moses everything? So the Rebbe explains from his great-great-grandfather, the Yismach Moshe, brings in Parshas Sheni, that it's a very difficult question in halacha, whether the body of a tzaddik, of a righteous person, causes impurity. You see, I don't mean to insult any other groups, but one group in particular, when Kohanim, they want to go visit the grave of their Rebbe, they walk with a little box, because it's a very crowded cemetery where he's buried, where his oil is, and they walk with a little box, and then when they come to oil, they don't need the box, because the two Rebbes buried there, and Kivrei Tzadikim Ein Matam. Right, it's I think it's already from the Beis Yosef, I think, such the halacha, and for sure the Sfardim can be saimach on that, but the Ashkenazim were really never makabelis, and the Satmarav, he brings from his Zayda the Yismach Moshe that really Meikra Din the Kivrei Tzadikim Ein Matam, that there is no tumah by a kever of a tzaddik, but since the human intellect cannot understand this concept that tzaddikim emisasam nikrim chayim, that the righteous in their death are called alive. We don't understand that. Since it's beyond human comprehension, so it's something that we cannot follow practically, because practical halacha has to make sense. And since it doesn't make any sense, even though theoretically it's true, but practically we don't follow it because it doesn't make sense to say such a thing, that a human being is alive when he's dead. So we cannot follow that in halacha, it says the Yismach Moshe, because it doesn't make sense. And also, there's another issue, is how do we decide who's a tzaddik? Meaning, this one's a tzaddik? We don't know. We don't have the tape measure to say this one's a tzaddik, this one's not, this one's this. That's on the level that he's not matama. So even though the truth is that the Kivrei Tzadikim do not defile, that the graves of the righteous do not defile, but since we don't know who's righteous, and since we don't understand this whole concept of a righteous person is still alive even when he's dead, so we don't follow it. That's what the Yismach Moshe says. So, according to Gemara and Sukkah, Why were these men unable to bring this Passover? Because they were carrying the bones of Joseph. Joseph a tzaddik, that's his name, right? He's righteous. We know he's a tzaddik, no question. So when they were coming to ask Moses, they weren't saying, "What should we do? Because we're carrying a dead body. We're impure. We can't bring it. Why should we be left out?" No, that's not what they're saying. They're saying we know the halacha that a righteous person does not defile. So why can't we bring the Korban Pesach if we're carrying Yosef, right? And so the answer was not really about that issue, but just rather we brought out the halacha after they asked that question that we brought up that halacha that we have a second Pesach for anyone. It doesn't have to be involved in a mitzvah. That doesn't need to be why he's impure. It just he's not even a tzaddik. It's a mitzvah even to bury someone not a tzaddik. But what's the deal? He's just saying we can't rely. Basically, what the Satmar Rebbe is saying is that God's answer to Moses was we cannot rely on this because we don't. If we're going to say that everyone knows Yosef was a tzaddik, there's no question. But then everyone's going to start following this halacha because they're going to see the example, and every tzaddik or every Rebbe, say the tzaddik and a kohen can go to the grave, which how do you know? How do you know this one's a tzaddik, this one's not? Who's to decide? Who's to make such a decision when it's such a major issue? And so we just pushed it off basically. Same thing with the Benos Tzalofchad, that. The question was that Eretz Yisrael was supposed to be divided among the righteous people, and their father died because, according to the opinion, that he was the one who was picking up the wood on Shabbos, not allowed to do it. And that's why he was executed. So that's why he lost out. But then the answer was, well, no, he was really a tzaddik, and he was doing this just to teach people how important Shabbos is, that he was a martyr for Shabbos. So therefore, since his intention was pure, he should be considered tzaddik, and he should receive a portion. So that was the question, meaning the whole point of these two questions was to say that we don't know who's a tzaddik and who's not a tzaddik. Okay. Now, and really, that's what the Satmar Rebbe says. That basically, since we cannot, that the whole issue here is, we don't know who's a tzaddik, who's not a tzaddik, so we have to follow, as far as when it comes to impurity of the dead, we have to just leave that alone and not follow the halacha that you could, even though he brings this in the end, that Moses did it, but Moses was different, whatever it was, when he was dealing with Yosef with the first Pesach in Mitzrayim, this was the next year, whatever it is, we'll leave that alone. But I think that's what Pesach Sheni is all about, really. Ad kan loshen Divrei Yoel schus yigaleinu kol solmein. I think that's the whole idea of Pesach Sheni. Pesach Sheni, we always are told, it's a day that reminds us that our God is a God of second chances. But more than that. And so we shouldn't be left out. Meaning, let's remove the question of Satmar Rav. The answer to that, which is beautiful, let's go by the Rechaim HaKodesh, who said, basically, that, they were asking the question because they figured they're doing a mitzvah, why should they be left out? That was their whole argument. Whether they were carrying Yosef or anybody, it's a mitzvah to help bury another Jew. So they're doing a mitzvah, they should be left out from another mitzvah. That was their taina. That's what the Rechaim HaKodesh brings. But the answer had nothing to do with whether you're doing a mitzvah or not. All it had to do with, are you far away? Are you impure? That's it. And automatically, you're far away, you're potter, and you can bring the second Pesach. If you don't bring the Pesach and you're able to, and you're close by, it's kares. It's one of the few sins that are a sin of omission that someone could have kares for. Only that in the bris milah, right? And yet, and they're connected, but the Maya Chayi, by your blood you shall live. So, the question was, oh, because we did a mitzvah. The answer was, you don't need to be doing a mitzvah. You know, it doesn't matter why you're impure. You still have a second chance. And you know, today's also Yahrzeit of Meir Balanes. You know, we give money and light candles when we lose something. We want to get something back, and we pray to the God of Rebbe Meir, right? And we give in memory of Rebbe Meir Balanes, Elokad Meir Aneni, right? That's it. Everything that's lost, we think everything's lost, we can find it. We can come back. We think everyone, Hakol B'ches Kesumin, Achiru Eneim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu Eneim, Amar Rebbe Binyamin, right? Rebbe Binyamin said, everyone's assumed to be blind until God opens their eyes. Amich Kulam Tzadikim. You know, Mitoch Lavat Shemei Ahein. From the negative, you can infer the positive. If, on the negative side, we can't assume someone to be a tzaddik, and so therefore we don't know who's the tzaddik, who's not. Even the ones we know to be a tzaddik, we're not going to follow it lahalacha to go on their grave, a kohen, etc., or someone bringing a sacrifice to say that the grave isn't metame. But still, so we don't know who's a tzaddik. But mitoch lavat shemei ahein, from the negative you can prefer the positive. Amech kulam tzadikim. The prophet Isaiah says all your people are righteous. We should assume everyone's good, that they have that deep inside them, that point, that's righteous, that's good. That's what Pesach Sheni is all about. On Pesach Sheni, the Mishnah says we have chametz and matzah together. And you know what? I realized it this morning. You know, Pesach and Erev Pesach, we don't say Mizmor L'Soda. We don't say Psalm 100, the Psalm of Thanksgiving. And why? Because the Lachmei Toda, these Thanksgiving sacrifices had bread, had chametz, so we didn't have them on Pesach. And not Erev Pesach, because they'd be left over. But Pesach Sheni, we have the Korban Toda, we have Mizmor L'Soda, Hariel Hashem Kol Haaretz Yivdu Es Hashem B'Simcha. A psalm of thanksgiving. Call unto the Lord all the earth. Serve the Lord with joy, go before Him with song. Bayer L'Fanav Bernana. Du Ki Hashem Elokim, know that the Lord, He is God. Hu Son of Eloi Nachnu, He made us and we're His. So that's it. It's a day of thanksgiving. It's a day of thanksgiving because our God is a God of second chances. He loves us. You know, someone was asking me questions recently, you know, about other religions and trying to say, you know, their religion, here they have, you know, we're all doomed and we need, you know, who, you know, to save us. I only need God to save me. I don't need someone else. And they're basing themselves on the assumption, like a friend of mine said, you know, it never says that, you know, a tzaddik never sins. Just the opposite. The Bible always says, Shem Yipul tzaddik v'kom. The righteous falls 7 times, he gets back up. So, you know, we're not, you know, when we do something wrong, it's a chance to humble ourselves. Like I've said many times, King David said twice, before me always, L'negdi samid, Shvisi Hashem L'negdi samid, V'chatasi L'negdi samid. I place the Lord before me always, and my sin is before me always, it says in the Psalms, in 2 different Psalms. Meaning that we remember our sin is before us always, we remember we're not perfect, because if we think we're perfect and we're arrogant, there's no room for God. Like the Talmud says, there's not enough room for this town for the both of us, you know? But here, when we humble ourselves, and we see that God still loves us, no matter what we did, no matter how far away we are, no matter how impure we are, we can assume, V'amech kulam tzadikim, we don't know who's a tzaddik and who's not, so V'amech kulam tzadikim. And therefore, it's a time of Mizmor L'Soda, it's a time of thanksgiving on Pesach Sheni. And so we should be worthy to be thankful and to be back in the Beis HaMikdash soon when Mashiach comes, the real Mashiach. B'sham Neichel min Pesachim min Zvachim. Amen. Chatzal for the Pesach kehilchos kechal mishpotay v'chikusay kasher zechini l'sader oisay kehein nizkel lasoisay Isaac Sheikhin Moina Kaimen Kaladas Mimona Bikara if Nahel Nitechana Pediyim Letzion Berigin Alashana Haba B'Yerushalayim.